Hello everyone! This episode will be about Microsoft Patch Tuesday for July 2023, including vulnerabilities that were added between June and July Patch Tuesdays. As usual, I use my open source Vulristics project to analyze and prioritize vulnerabilities. I optimized the detection of the vulnerable product and the type of vulnerability based on the description. Now processing already downloaded data with option rewrite flag false takes a few seconds. For example, only 3 seconds for 100 Microsoft Patch Tuesday vulnerabilities. It used to take a few minutes. What I've done. For Microsoft generated descriptions, for example, Microsoft Excel remote code execution vulnerability type and product are now directly parsed out of the description. Keyword search is not performed. I rewrote the generic keyword search based on products.json. I have reduced the use of heavy functions without sacrificing the quality of the detections. The bottleneck is downloading data from data sources. This should be resolved with own complete vulnerability feed that could be generated by Vulristics. Thus, improving Vulristics, I am approaching the implementation of the feed. Microsoft Patch Tuesday is not only about CVEs. Sometimes it's also about ADVs, as in the latest Patch Tuesday. ADV 230001, Guidance on Microsoft Signed Drivers Being Used Maliciously. ADV 23002, Microsoft Guidance for Addressing Security Feature Bypass and in Trend Micro EFI Modules. Sometimes the corresponding CVE is mentioned in the ADV description. Sometimes it's not. I don't know why they do this and why they simply can't use existing CVEs or allocate their own CVEs, since ADV is in the Update Guide Vulnerability section and Microsoft is the CVE numbering authority. But here is the fact. MS use vulnerability IDs that can't be used for mapping. For now, I just ignore them and show them when generating the Vulristics report. For Microsoft Patch Tuesday, July 2023, I took comments about vulnerabilities from reviews of Qualys, Tenable, Rapid7, ZDI, Kaspersky, Dark Reading, Krebs on Security, The Hacker News, Sophos Naked Security. I tweaked the Vulristics reports a bit. Now you can see the criticality of the vulnerabilities that were mentioned in each of the comment sources. VM vendors, Qualys, Tenable, Rapid7, mention more vulnerabilities in their reviews, as well as Dark Reading. Sophos, for example, only mentions the very top. ZDI actually mentions a lot of vulnerabilities too, but most of them are simply listed in a table with a minimum of columns, so I ignore this. I also added the all A column to all tables with the total number of vulnerabilities for the product, type of vulnerabilities, or comment source. So now let's go directly to MS Patch Tuesday CVEs. All vulnerabilities 143, urgent 2, critical 1, high 62, medium 78, low 0. Remote code execution in Microsoft Office CVE 2023 36884 definitely catch the eye. This vulnerability even has a normal description and not a minimal one. Exploitation of this vulnerability began in June 2023. Exploitation requires the victim to open a specially crafted malicious document, which would typically be delivered via email. In the blog, Microsoft mentioned that the attacks were targeted against defense and government entities in Europe and North America. There are still no patches, only workarounds. In the absence of a patch, Microsoft is urging users to use the block all Office applications from creating child processes, attack surface reduction ASR rule. Also actively exploited. Security feature bypass in Windows SmartScreen CVE 2023-32-049. Windows SmartScreen is an early warning system designed to protect against malicious websites used for phishing attacks or malware distribution. An attacker must make the users click on a specially crafted URL to exploit the vulnerability. Exploitation would allow the attacker to bypass the open file warning prompt and compromise the victim's machine. Security feature bypass in Microsoft Outlook CVE 2023-35-311. Exploitation of this flaw requires an attacker to convince a potential victim to click on a malicious URL. Successful exploitation would result in the bypassing of the Microsoft Outlook security notice prompt, a feature designed to protect users. Microsoft says that while its Outlook preview pane feature is in attack vector, user interaction is still required. This is likely being paired with some other exploit designed to execute code when opening a file. Elevation of privilege in Windows Error Reporting Service CVE 2023-36-874. To elevate to administrative privileges, an attacker would need to have access to a user account with the ability to create folders and performance traces on the target system. Standard user accounts don't have these permissions by default. Successful exploitation would allow an attacker to obtain administrative privileges on the target system. Elevation of privilege in Windows MSHTML platform CVE 2023-32-046. Windows MSHTML is a browser engine that renders web pages frequently connected to Internet Explorer. Successful exploitation requires the victim to open a specially crafted malicious file, typically delivered either via email or a web page. Assets where Internet Explorer 11 has been fully disabled are still vulnerable until patched. The MS-HTML engine remains installed within Windows regardless of the status of IE11, since it is used in other contexts, for example, Outlook. These are all vulnerabilities that have a public exploit or are exploited in the wild. Let's see the rest. There are no Exchange vulnerabilities, but there is an intriguing remote code execution in Windows Active Directory Certificate Services ADCS CVE 2023-35-35-0. But judging by the Microsoft description, this is not particularly critical. An attacker with Certificate Authority CA read access permissions can send a specially crafted request to a vulnerable certificate server. By default, only domain administrators are granted CA read access. Additionally, the following RCEs highlighted in the reviews can be noted. Microsoft Message Queuing CVE 2023-32-057, CVE 2023-35-309. An attacker must send a malicious MSMQ packet to an MSMQ server to exploit this vulnerability. On successful exploitation, an attacker may perform remote code execution on the server side. You can block TCP port 1801 as a mitigation, but the better choice is to test and deploy the update quickly. Windows Routing and Remote Access Service RRAS CVE 2023-35-365, CVE 35366, CVE 2023 35367. Exploitation requires an attacker to send crafted packets to an impacted server. RRAS is not installed or configured in Windows by default, and those users who have not enabled the feature are not impacted by these vulnerabilities. Windows Layer 2 Breach Network Driver, CVE 2023 35315. An unauthenticated attacker must send a specially crafted file operation requests to a Windows server configured as a Layer 2 breach to exploit the vulnerability. An attacker must gain access to the restricted network before running an attack. Successful exploitation of the vulnerability will lead to remote code execution on the target system. Microsoft SharePoint, CVE 2023 33134, CVE 2023 33157, CVE 2023 33159, CVE 2023 33160. They all require the attacker to authenticate or the user to perform certain actions, and this, fortunately, reduces the risk of hacking. However, because SharePoint can contain sensitive data and is usually accessible from outside the organization, those who use the on-premises or hybrid versions should update. Windows Pragmatic General Multicast PGM, CVE 2023 35297. Pragmatic General Multicast PGM is a multicast computer network transport protocol appropriate for multi-receiver file transfer applications. PGM provides a reliable sequence of packets to multiple recipients simultaneously. An attack can be performed only on the systems connected to the same network segment as the attacker. The attack cannot be performed across multiple networks, for example, a WAN. The link to the full Vulristics report is available in the blog post. And that's it for today. Please subscribe and leave your comments. Bye!